Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Friday, the 10th of March. The year is fair flying in. I'm Derek Clark, and as ever on a Friday, I'm joined by the bright and cheery face of Chris Jack. How are we doing, Chris?
Not too bad, Derek. Not bad at all. Thanks for having us on once again.
Yeah, absolutely magnificent. Before we talk Rangers, folks, as you know, just about housekeeping. First of all, if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, we're nearing 12,000 subscribers now. That's totally free. Just click on the subscribe button. If you click the bell as well, you'll never miss a video when we go live. You can see the ticker below if you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. We've got that offer on the website just now, just £2 for 2 months worth of content. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. And a quick word for our sponsors as well. Seneca Hair Restoration UK. They're the number one hair transplant group in Europe, no less. So if you're thinking about adding a bit more on top, then these are the guys to go to. And as always, I've stuck the link in the description box as well. So go do check them out if that is something you're thinking about. Right, first of all, Chris, it's great to have you on after what is a scintillating performance on Wednesday night from Rangers. We're just talking briefly off air there. Very unexpected, I think, but much welcomed. Was that the best performance under Michael Beale for you?
I think so. I think we got about 5-10 minutes into the second half, and I turned to a couple of guys that were sitting beside and said, "Look, is this better than Tynecastle?" Because I just written to say one of the 5 things from that match was this is the best Beale performance, and double checked with them and said this is better than Tynecastle, and word come back and said no, this definitely is, because I think the Tynecastle performance, though they played very well, could have scored more, should have scored more, were very comfortable in it, but I think the form that Hibs are in, having suffered the Old Firm setback a couple of weeks ago and still trying to kind of come back from that and come to terms with that, I think Easter Road was the most impressive that we've seen from Rangers under Michael Beale. I thought Saturday, the first half against Killie, they were very good in spells. Somehow, unbeknown to a lot of people, I think dropped off quite remarkably in the second half. And I don't think a lot of people would have seen that coming on Wednesday night, but they're really, really impressive, really good. And the question in the press conference naturally was, has the bar been set? Is this the new kind of foundation for Rangers? And we'll only know that in the next couple of weeks if they can really kick on from this. You can maybe look back at Wednesday night and say that was the night that really kind of kick-started Michael Beale as Rangers manager, hopefully.
Yeah, it was a brilliant performance all round from Rangers. There's so many man of the match candidates for me, Chris. Ryan Jack just edged it probably of them all. Was he been your man of the match, and how pleasing is it to see him play at that level? That the question that has been throughout his Rangers career, of course, is can he do that on a consistent basis? We know he's had his injury problems to seek, but if he can produce that level of performance, then a new contract is a no-brainer for me.
He was my pick on Wednesday night, Derek. Again, had that conversation with a couple of guys round about me, and Ryan Jack got the vote. I thought there were a number of guys that played really, really well, but like you said, I thought Jacko just picked it in that particular award. It comes back to the age-old Ryan Jack question. If you can do that for 40 games a season, what a midfielder you've got on your hands. If you can do it for 30 games a season, he's more than worth a contract. It's whether if you can only do it for 15, 20 games a season, if he's then worth it or not. Personally, he would be one of the ones that I would hold on to. I think he offers something different in the middle of the pitch. I think if you give him a deal, you know that you're not going to get 40, 50 games out of him. But on occasions like going to Tynecastle or going to Easter Road, going to Pittodrie, he's the ideal man for the job. You probably don't need him at Ibrox against a Kelly or St Johnson. That's maybe the times to rest him. But for those big games when there's just that wee bit more about it, I think Ryan Jack's the ideal man to have in the squad. It's also interesting to see how the manager plays it in terms of the contract guys. I don't think you can afford to let all of them go. So even if Jack, Arfield, McGregor obviously will move on. Steve Davis, his contract's up as well. I think if you got rid of all of these guys, you lose a lot of personality and a lot of character about the squad. I think that'd be quite a big risk for Michael. I think you have to have guys in the squad that know what it's about, that know the club, that know the league, because there will be such a big influx of players over the summer. You're thinking 6, 7, 8, maybe even more than that.
Yeah,
you need guys like Ryan Jack in your squad to say to a Nico Raskin or a Todd Cantwell, look, this is Easter Road, this is what to expect, this is what it's going to be like. Same going to Parkhead, same going to Pittodrie, same even just going to Livingston, Kelly on those pitches. Having that nous, having that knowledge of Scottish football is really invaluable for a squad. And I think if you only get 20 to 25 games out of Ryan Jack, plus he can offer you that on the training pitch and offer you that in the dressing room, I think he's more than worthy of another deal.
Yeah, lots of comments coming in. A lot to do with about you, Chris, coming in here. Randy Marsh from Down Under says, "Is Chris in heaven?" There's just a light coming in out the back of your the corner of your screen. I think obviously the sun peeking in there where you are. Denzel says the way the sun is coming through the window there, Chris looks like a 1970s Polaroid. But that's a bit better. Yeah,
I'll just move around a wee bit. There we go. I can confirm I'm not dead.
Absolutely fantastic. Listen, the performance on Wednesday night was magnificent, and it's all about maintaining that on Sunday, Chris, in the Scottish Cup. Of course, Rangers found it tough going in the previous round against Partick Thistle. We all know about that game and the aftermath of that. I don't think anyone would have expected that when they went to Ibrox on that afternoon. Raith Rovers, I think they had the warning signs from that game. I posed a question to Stevie Clifford yesterday. Would you make any changes for the game on Sunday, or would you be inclined to keep that starting 11 if there's not any niggles or any bumps and bruises from Wednesday night and get the game won before making any changes?
What was Stevie's answer?
He would like to keep the same 11.
Unsurprisingly, I would agree with him, and I think the guys that played so well on Wednesday night have the under jerseys. I wrote that in the stuff with Antonio Cholak this morning. He had earned his place on Wednesday night because you think Easter Road is usually a Morelos type of venue. It would have been ideal fit for him to get in and kind of get in about Hibs. It's a type of game that really suits him. But Cholak played really well against Kelly. The manager spoke really enthusiastically about his performance against Kelly, even though he didn't score and he deserved to keep his place. If he then puts in that kind of performance at Easter Road, he deserves to keep his place for a game against Raith where he would back himself to go and get another couple of goals. The only change I think might be Tillman. If he's fit, we'll find out at the presser later on what the status is with him. You can maybe see him coming back in just to give him a game ahead of the Motherwell game next weekend. It then depends on how far along Yilmaz is, how far along John Souttar is. You would think a home game against a championship team would be the ideal place for these type of guys, but they've only not played a lot of football. I know they played against Celtic in the Glasgow Cup the other day there. It's probably too big of a leap to then throw them straight back in, but I would hope to see the two of them in the squad if possible and maybe give them 15, 20 minutes towards the end, depending how the game's going. I know that was a frustration for the manager last week that John Souttar ended up getting 60 seconds or 90 seconds at the end of the game, whereas if Rangers had kicked on like they should have done and been 5-0 up after half an hour, John Souttar might have got 20 minutes. It would have been far more beneficial for him. So hopefully Rangers can get the job done nice and early on Sunday. That then gives you chances for the likes of Yilmaz and Souttar to hopefully get up and running again. And I think the rest of the team almost picks itself. I think if these guys want to play again, if they're fit to play again, I think it'd be quite harsh to drop them on the back of not drop them because of form, but because of the schedule now. I don't think they really need a rest. I think if these guys are fit and able to go, I would just go with the same again.
Yeah, Connor Fleming gets in touch, former player, of course. He says, I spoke to a former teammate last night, Dylan Easton, who is their star man, not expecting no changes on Sunday. It will be an interesting one, of course. The Scottish Cup represents Rangers' most realistic chance of silverware this season, so it's of high importance. You've got a piece on the website this morning, Chris, talking about Cholak, of course, keeping the Rangers jersey. Michael Beale was waxing lyrical about his performance last week against Kilmarnock. Never got his goal, but got the double against Hibs on Wednesday night. Thought his movement was brilliant. His finishing was top-notch as well. And with Alfredo now, Michael Beale did touch on in his press conference, he is unhappy. I wouldn't imagine he would be happy being left out of the side. But Cholak is a main man going forward for me, Chris. It's his jersey to lose now.
I did wonder when Michael spoke about Čolak at the weekend. I did wonder if it was a case of talking up the man who had played well. It's not to say that he didn't play well against Kelly. I wonder if he was almost over egging him a wee bit, and it was just a wee shot across the bows of Alfredo to say, look, that's what you now need to get. This guy's come in. Yes, he's not scored, but he's played well for the team. He's done everything else that I've asked for him. Rangers look dangerous. And when Antonio then plays like that on Wednesday night, he got his 2 goals. He should have had a hat-trick. He could have easily had 4 or 5 of the chances, but so could Ryan Kent, so could a couple of others, the chances that Rangers had. I think Čolak deserves to keep his place. Ultimately, I don't think he's the type of guy that Rangers will build their first 11 around in terms of a striker. I think they still could do better. They'll also need to go out and sign one come the summer. As a guy to have in a squad, I think he's a good option. Is he the type of striker that Michael Beale will, build that team around about? I still don't quite see it as well as he has done for Rangers in his first season. If you think back to Morelos at his best, Čolak at his best, it still isn't anywhere near that level. They do different things, and I think Rangers still need a Morelos type figure to lead that line. But we've been trying to find a Morelos replacement for 4 or 5 seasons now, and it's not happened. Come the summer, it all looks like they will have to finally do that and do it successfully. Personally, I would stick with Antonio. I think he's earned it. He's deserved it. His goals to games ratio is better than Alfredo's over the course of the season, and there's none of the nonsense with Čolak. He turns up, he trains, he plays. Nice big guy. Manager seems to like him. And there's no questions over his mentality or his fitness or does he look bothered. You know what you're getting from him. And when Rangers are just trying to build some momentum, it's also not going to help them in terms of the Premiership. They're just trying to build a bit of momentum, get that feel-good factor going. I think there's more to be gained from sticking with Antonio between now and the end of the season. And at some point, there will come a day and it'll be Alfredo's final. It'll be his final game for us.
Yeah. Rangers do need to start preparing for life without Alfredo Morelos. I think that's a given. Just before we touch on Scott McTominay being touted for a Rangers move, I seen this morning, Chris, a report yesterday suggesting Rangers eyeing up a Danish centre back by the name of Thomas Christensen at AGF. He plays for in the Danish Super League. Capped at Denmark under 21 level, big giant of a man by all accounts, big player. I think Rangers will be watching a whole host of players, and it's no secret that centre backs is one of them. Is that an area of the pitch that you can see being strengthened come the summer?
I would think so. I think they'll probably do one. His name was also linked yesterday in the Danish press. Tried to check this one out yesterday afternoon, didn't really get anywhere on it, unfortunately. So I don't have any update in terms of how strong any interest, if there is any interest, is on this one. But we'll try and find out over the next couple of weeks. We're only 6 weeks or so from the end of the transfer window, and we're already building up to the next one. It's a 365 days endeavour, this one.
Absolutely is.
I think they will try and do something at centre half. You're also looking at Phil Hollander leaving. It depends how John Souttar comes back in terms of his fitness, how much he can be relied on over the course of a campaign. Depends whether Michael Beale likes him and rates him and sees him as part of the team, which I think he will. But I do think they will need another centre half. Potentially see Leon King going out on loan somewhere, just to get him 40, 50 games under his belt if they can. Yeah. But I think it's not a pressing issue. It's not one of you say, well, there has to be 2 or 3 signings in that area of the pitch. Also got Goldson Davies. That partnership has looked good in the last wee while. But I do think they will have to do something in that area. But don't expect it to be a rip up and start again job like it might be in other areas of the pitch.
Yeah, just touching on that point about Leon King, Chris. If he was to go out on loan, what sort of destination would you like to see him go to? A team in the Scottish Premiership? Would you like to see him go down south perhaps, or even abroad? Could he play?
I think if he's going to stay up here, it would need to be Hearts, Hibs or Aberdeen. I don't think there's anything to be gained for going any lower down the league than that. Abroad would be a real interesting one for him. It's not something that Scottish players do that often, and that would be an interesting one. If he's going down south, it has to be Championship again. I don't think there's much to be learned from League One. It's interesting that Leon's not featured that much under Michael, not featured at all actually under Michael Beale, having had such an impressive first half of the season in really difficult circumstances. I thought he equipped himself well, and he handled everything that was thrown at him through all those struggles. I thought he handled it well. You can understand why the manager has decided just to stick with Golson Davis. He had to build something from the back. That's the best partnership at present. So it's understandable why Leon's not had a look in. But from his development point of view, he has to start playing games again soon. So I think if it becomes obvious that he's maybe 4th or even 5th choice centre half next season, I think a loan deal is probably the best thing for him, just to get him that game time. But then I say it then comes down to what level he's actually going to. There's no point in going to the Championship up here and strolling through 50 games. He's not going to learn anything from that. So an interesting one, not a pressing issue for Michael Beale, but one that has to be managed quite well, because if Rangers do see Leon King as the future, they have to be careful not to ruin his present.
Yeah. Like a bit of comedy on the show in the morning. CGM55 says, offer King to Ajax on loan just to wind up those ex-Ajax players who are moaning about us selling them Bassey. I've seen Wesley Sneijder bumping his gums about the £19 million fee that Ajax paid Rangers for him the other day there. But got the Man of the Match award, I'm sure, if I'm not mistaken, recently. Big Calvin over there, so he's certainly improving game by game, it appears. Just touching on, there's another interesting point that I've seen. Just murmurings, Chris. Stephen Kirkland says, morning, guys. Morelos is rumoured to have agreed a pre-contract with Sevilla. Have you heard anything? I haven't heard anything of the sort, Chris, I've got to say. I know it has been linked with them in the past. I would be surprised if he went there. Although clubs such as that, on a free transfer, is a Morelos an attractive option, perhaps?
If you'd asked me 2 seasons ago, I would have said Sevilla's the type of club that you would go to. You're looking at not one of the giants of the European game, but someone like a Sevilla, a Porto, maybe one of the top teams in Holland, maybe would have been the kind of level for him. Having had the season that he's had, with the issues that he's had, I would be surprised if a team such as Sevilla would be interested. He's clearly still got talent, clearly still got a lot of games and goals in him, and managers always fancy a challenge. Managers always say, I can get the best out of Alfredo Morelos. I can get him back to where he was when he was scoring against Porto, when he was on that incredible European run. Right now, I would be surprised. I think it'd be a great move for him, but I'd be surprised if that's the level that he goes to. It'd be really interesting actually to see where he ends up, because he either goes to a European team and re-establishes himself and finally fulfills this potential that we've known that he clearly has, or he ends up in China or Qatar or the Middle East somewhere, makes a lot of money, scores a lot of goals, but never gets to the kind of levels and the kind of success that it looked like he would get to a couple of seasons ago. If he goes to Sevilla, I don't think I'll be going out for the unveiling press conference. I've had my fill of Seville.
No, I know. Same here. Less said about that fateful evening, the better. Still raw at this point in time, I think. But that was an interesting one I seen yesterday. And now a point, obviously, that's made the papers this morning, made the news websites and what have you, is Scott McTominay has been tipped for a move to Rangers by former Man United defender Paul Parker. He reckons a move to Ibrox would help him kickstart his career. He says it reckons a good place for the midfielder to prove how good he is. Speaking to my betting sites, he says, I think it could be a possibility for him to go to Rangers. He is not good enough to play for Celtic, he said. There is no way he would be able to play regularly for Celtic in the way they play. He'll have a better chance of playing if he moves to Rangers, but it's a big decision for him to leave Man United, but he has to do it because right now he's also playing jeopardy with his spot in the national team. He can be a sub for Man United, but if he's got anything about himself, if he wants to play as many games as possible right now, his career isn't something to write about, and he needs to show that he's hungry enough to get a decent career. I expect that he wants to leave Man United to show that he is a good player. Just an ex-Man United player tipping him for a move to Rangers. Chris, I don't think we can read too much into it as such, but Scott McTominay, for you, are you a fan?
I'm a fan of him for Scotland. I think he's done well for Scotland. I've always had my doubts whether he is a Manchester United midfielder. Personally, I don't think he is, and I think he'll probably find his chances limited there as the Ten Hag era unfolds. I think in terms of a move to Rangers or Celtic, wages will be a stumbling block. I would imagine if you're a Premier League player in the peak of your powers, the Old Firm are not a place that can offer you the type of money that you're being after. If you look at a West Ham, an Everton, even like a Leeds or something like that, maybe that's the type of team I can see McTominay playing for, and they will blow the Old Firm out the water. As you say, Derek, it is just former Man United player talking about current Man United player, so I don't think it's one that Michael B will be getting asked about later on.
Yeah, me either. But he's certainly a player of talent on his day. Of that, there is no doubt. I agree with you, Chris. It usually tends to turn up for Scotland, but for Man United, I think perhaps his career is best suited at a club elsewhere, whether that be Rangers or whoever, who knows. Just in terms of the Rangers midfield in general terms, Chris, people waxing lyrical about that midfield three the other night of Jack, Raskin and Cantwell. Is that the midfield three for you going forward? Can you see the likes of Lundstram and Kamara getting back in?
Short answer would be no. I think unless anything happens to Ryan, Jack or Raskin, that's my preferred midfield two at present. I also spoke about Ryan earlier on. I spoke about Nico Raskin before. I've been really impressed with how he started his Rangers career. Kamara, I think, like Alfredo, is in the final weeks of his Rangers career. John Lundstram, we all know how good he can be, and he actually spoke to us a couple of weeks ago about the highs of Europa League and Scottish Cup and the lows of Hampden and what he's been through this season. I think he's got a wee bit to go to maybe convince the fans that he's a guy that you can build a midfield roundabout again. He's not had a good season. Doesn't mean to say that he can't play a part going forward. And I'd be surprised if he moves on in the summer. But right now, I think Jack and Raskin deserve their spots. That other one is between Cantwell and Tillman. I think if Tillman's fit, you might see him going back in. But you have to say Cantwell, I thought the other night was again really impressive. I think one of the things that's stood out, I think everybody knew about his vision in terms of being able to play with his head up and go forward and carry the ball and play those passes, make those combinations. I think the way he's got stuck in without sounding too parochial has actually been quite impressive. He didn't shirk a challenge at Easter Road the other night there. He's happy to do the dirty work. He gets back. He's close control at times. There's a wee clip doing the rounds online the other day there. He sweeps the ball away and it gets back up. It's kind of Joe Aribo-esque. He's close control with 2 or 3 players round about him. I think that's been quite an impressive factor from him, and maybe something that a lot of fans didn't expect from him. Maybe expect him to come in and be a bit showboaty at times, I feel like. I think he's shown that he does have 2 sides to his game, and that he really can be a really influential player for Rangers going forward. Yeah,
I've been really impressed with him. Him and Raskin, I think, have been terrific acquisitions. And Malik Tillman, you touched on him at the top of the show, Chris. Faces a bit of a fight in his hands to get back in that side if they're playing like that. But I think he's one we'll find out today. I think the feeling was last weekend when Michael Beale spoke about him that they were targeting the Scottish Cup to get him back involved. Would you be tempted to start him if he comes back, or it's one of those ones where do you disrupt that midfield three that we just talked about, or even the forward three that were interchangeable and linked so well on Wednesday night?
I think it depends on how fit he actually is. He also had a couple of weeks out. If he's ready to go, by all means, start him. But you look at the next couple of weeks coming up. He's got a league game next week, international break coming up. There's no real need to rush him back in. So unless he is fully fit and ready to go, it's not a game you say, look, just go and try and give us an hour. Just try and get through it. Rangers should be fine, with all due respect to Raith Rovers. Rangers should be fine in terms of winning that game without Malik Tillman. So I don't think they'll take a chance on him if he's not really ready to come back in. If he is fit enough, come back in, give us half an hour, and that's him then back off and running. But I think given the circumstances on Sunday and what's ahead of us, I don't think there's much of a need to do anything silly with him.
Yeah, Pete Lawrence says, I do like the energy Cantwell brings us over Tillman. And Bob raises a point and says, I'd try Tillman up front. Guy can head the ball and is a handful in the box. I don't think Antonio Cholak's get dropping to the bench on Sunday, I've got to say. But yeah, it's an interesting point that you make there, Bob. Just finally, before you go then, Chris, just a reminder, folks, there is a press conference this afternoon. We're speaking to a player, whoever that is, put up for press, and Michael Beale around 1 o'clock this afternoon. So you'll get all the reaction to that on our website and also on our social media channels. Score prediction for Sunday, Chris. How do you see it going?
As we said before we come on here, Derek, hopefully a far more straightforward afternoon than it was against Thistle.
Yes.
No controversy, nothing silly. You would have to imagine Rangers win 3-4-0.
Yeah. I think I'd go along with that. As long as Rangers progress is the main thing to the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup. But ideally a lot more comfortable than what we witnessed recently against Partick Thistle. Just a reminder, folks, before we head off, we've got that offer on the website, just £2 for 2 months worth of content. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. And as I mentioned, we'll have all the reaction on our YouTube channel from that press conference a little later on. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back again on Monday to look back on hopefully what will be another Rangers win and progression to the last four of the Scottish Cup. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Friday and your weekend. Big thanks to Chris as well, and bye for now.